Music is also made up of things that we call intervals. An interval is basically the space from one note to the next. An interval can be made up, let's say you're playing a C. The distance from C to E is called an interval. And the distance from C to C sharp is also called an interval. So that distance between the two notes can either be made up of just one interval or a larger interval, a single note interval or a larger interval. In this case, if you're moving from C to D, you will notice that there's a note that you're skipping in the middle. From C to D, there's a C sharp that you're skipping in the middle. So what we call this is a whole note, and then from C to C sharp is a half step. It's what we call a semitone. And then from C to D would be a tone. So using intervals, we can now begin to construct what we call a scale. Constructing a scale, some of you might remember that in primary school, you probably learned things like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and that's the most commonly used scale. Is called a major scale. It is basically constructed by using a specific formula that you can apply to every single key that you play in, to every single note that you play in. To simplify things, I'm going to stay in the key of C. So looking at the note C, and then you play the C above it, you're going to stick to the white notes. And when you play them out, you will have do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Okay, that is what we call a major scale. When you look at your major scale, you will find that your scale is made up of a whole note interval from C to D, a whole note interval from D to E, a semitone interval from E to F, a whole tone, a whole tone, a whole tone, and a semitone. Okay? And applying this very same rule, that's a whole tone, a semitone, a whole tone, a whole tone, a whole tone, a semitone. I can actually play out that same formula in any other key and I will get a major scale. So if I was to start from F and I stuck only to the white keys, for instance, you might have noticed that the moment that I hit that B note there, it didn't sound right. And so therefore, building that same scale would mean that I have to do a whole tone, a semitone, a whole tone, a whole tone, and a semitone. And that gives me another major scale. Okay, we will come back to this at a later stage, but for now I just want you to understand what it means to build a major scale. Your scale in the key of C is made up of different degrees. When we're talking about different degrees, we're talking about every single note in the scale, every single note in the major scale counts as a degree. So where you start on the C, that degree is called 1. The next note after that is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you go back to the first degree again. And that is called an octave. Okay, now using this exact same formula that we've just learned, we are going to look at how to construct scales in other keys. Earlier, I pointed out that if you were starting from F, when you want to build a major scale in F, you would skip a whole tone, a semitone, a whole tone, a whole tone, a whole tone, and another semitone. I know that my fingering is wrong. I'm just doing this so that you guys can understand exactly how to build, what formula to use to build a scale. Okay, now I've done C, I have done F. And now I'm going to do, let's try A flat. For those who don't know who A flat is, I explained to you that you would start counting from C and you go B and D. You would go C, B, and A. And the flat is the note on the left-hand side of the note that you're playing. So if I say A flat, then that would mean this is A flat. So starting from A flat, constructing your major scale using the formula, it would be a whole note, a whole note, a semitone, a whole note, a whole note, a whole note, and a semitone. So let me play that out. Okay, now, what is frustrating for a lot of musicians is once you have learned all of these, a lot of people don't exactly know how to use them functionally in constructing music. And you don't know how to apply it in order that it makes sense when you actually play a real song. I'm gonna get to that in a later lesson. For now, I just want you to grasp the basic fundamentals of how you construct your scales, and then once you've got this locked down, then we can move along to how to use it, how to integrate it into your playing. For those of you who are a little bit more advanced, you're welcome to skip ahead to other lessons where you can actually learn how to put chords together out of the scales that we have learned. For now, we're going to move on to our next lesson.